Hi there, I'm David.
And hi, I'm Con. You're probably wondering what we're doing here. So David, what are we doing here?
Okay, we are in my garage studio, and recently, Con, I was helping you out with the clamps video.
That's right, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I love the jib shots with the hot heads on the cutaways.
No, that's good. But what I realised when I was rolling on that, we were recording that video, is how many of those clamps that you were talking about that we're actually using in here in my garage.
That's right. We're using them right now to hold up the lights in your
Correct.
studio.
Yeah. Plus a few others that we didn't use, but I have them in my car all the time. And I just thought, well, look, because I had a couple of photos from some location shoots that I did, I thought it's an opportunity to show you how I use some of the clamps that you talked about and some of the ones you didn't talk about.
I believe you got some examples.
I have indeed. So,
what's the first example?
Okay, so what I'm doing here is a live cross on St Kilda Beach here in Melbourne, and the talent hasn't arrived yet, but I'm working on my own and working on the beach, which creates, working in the sand, which creates challenges.
Oh, we've all had situations where sand's getting into our gear and it's half an hour worth of our time afterwards cleaning it all out.
It follows you home. So the less of it that goes back in the car, the better. But it's also, expensive electronic equipment. We've got microphones and windsocks and all sorts of things that I just don't want sand getting into.
So what's the first example you're going to show us of how you use your clamps?
So if I just zoom in a bit here, hang on, sorry, but just bear with me with my...
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the De Gero.
What is a De Gero for myself and others who might not know what it is?
It's basically 5 or 6 mobile phone SIM cards in that little box, and it sends the live signal out basically. So it takes the SDI out of the camera into that, and it's a bonding process, whatever that is, and it's the links basically, and that's why when you watch the news these days, whether there's a natural disaster or whatever, that the news crews are always they're so quickly doing live crosses, and it's basically...
So as long as you've got a phone network, a working phone network, mobile network, you can live stream from almost anywhere.
Correct.
And so these are used very much by news, ENG sort of...
Yeah, and there's a couple of different brands of them, but this is the one that Channel 9 use. That's one. So once again, this demonstrates how useful these clamps are, because I'm working on my own.
Yep.
So what I had here was the combination of the Cardellini clamp, which you mentioned about in your video,
yes,
and actually join it to a super clamp, and the Cardellini is mounted to my trolley. Yep. And then another little trick that I do is this isn't the De Gero, this is just a Pelican case of mine. What I actually do is screw the super clamp down. I don't screw it so tight that it will risk crushing the handle. I just do it just so it's firm, but if you sort of see there, it just means that the handle actually won't slip through.
Right, that's a very
clamp.
ingenious combination of your clamps.
Anyone else does that or not, but that's what I do. But then you can see there how it just keeps it out of the sand, and it's one less thing I have to...
Yeah, and the clamps are pretty robust.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good, and when the pressure's on, I do that up quite tight. And just, you just know that even without being an engineer, those beautiful deep threads, there's a lot of strength in there.
Yep.
It is important to actually check when you are going to perhaps experiment with what you're actually going to suspend with these things. Just jump onto the website and just check what the load
ratings, and that's very important.
Correct.
That's right. You don't want to exceed the manufacturer's load ratings.
No, because some of this gear is quite expensive, or it's all expensive. It's another examples of just these super clamps, how many I actually have. There's actually, there's 3 or 4 on that trolley.
Right, you use them a fair bit.
Yeah, and until you sort of mentioned it in the video, I thought, we do use these quite a lot.
They're an integral part of what we do.
Yeah, and I even say here, and there's another Cardellini there, is I basically just fix when I'm going from the car, I actually just fix the light panels onto the super clamp with spigots, and and I just load the trolley up with lights.
So it saves space on the trolley.
Absolutely, and once again, we don't have camera assistance, so so that's another one. What else have I got? Oh, another clamp is the spring clamp. which we have, just one of these. And I must admit, I didn't, once again, till your video, I felt a bit ashamed because, once again, they're so important, these clamps, but I actually don't know what they're all called.
Yeah, we had to look them up. We had to do a bit of research ourselves.
We had to look them up, but I use this every day. So that, of course, everyone is familiar with, the polystyrene.
Oh, that's right. In the photo, you used the spring clamp. And what's that connected to? It's a grip head on a C-stand. Yep.
It's on a C-stand, yeah.
Yep.
So,
and what's the reflector actually doing? You've got the lights and the reflector. What's the reflector actually doing in this instance?
So once again, with morning TV, anyone who's done it, is light can change. I mean, you can arrive there in the dark.
Yes. And
you get out the lights you think you're going to need.
Yep.
And then, within a few minutes before you actually go live, the sun has come up, or you don't actually know if it's going to be cloudy or full sun. On this particular day, it was patchy. I was going from, because, the director's in your ear saying, we're coming to you after the break, we're still 5 minutes away, we're still 7 minutes away. In that time, full sun, cloud, full sun, cloud. So when...
You're hedging your bets.
Pretty much. So when the sun's out, obviously, the LEDs won't do a lot.
Yep.
But I positioned the silver side of the poly if the sun came out.
Yep.
And once again, in the morning the morning live crosses, the sun's obviously low, so it's coming in on that angle, angle that I need.
And you don't have anyone to hold that?
No, I don't have anyone to hold it.
One up.
No, and we're on the beach.
Yep.
And once again, I just bury the base of the polystyrene into the sand.
Yep.
And there's a 12 kilogram shop bag on the C-stand, and then the clamp. I mean, look, if it's a cyclone, it will blow away, but there was still a fair bit of wind that day.
That's right. No amount of stands or shop bags can save you from a hurricane or a windy day, but on a reasonable day, they can really allow you to do your job and do it well, especially when you don't have anyone to help you. Now, I notice you've got a sandbag, not a shop bag, on the base of the poly. Is there a reason why?
It's another strange nuance of mine. The sandbags, I've got one somewhere, it's actually lighter than a shop bag.
Oh, okay.
And the lead shop bag being heavier, I think you can actually risk damaging the polystyrene.
Yeah, if you throw it on the base,
it'll just snap. And anyone who has polystyrene in their kit will know it's actually getting large sizes of polystyrene actually isn't easy.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder. I think it's considered a hazardous material.
It is, yeah. And that's another thing I should point out. I generally don't use these inside for that reason, but I think outside's fairly sort of safe. But by the time you gaffer tape the silver side to it, it's work. So you go out of your way not to break it, even though it's just not worth a whole lot of money. But what's your time worth? Making another one or
we've
tracking
been using them for 20 or 30 years or more.
Correct.
They're a great piece of kit.
But it's subtle. But that is a shop bag, a sandbag as opposed to a shop bag.
Right.
And also the other reason I just have one sandbag is actually handy because the trolley's not braked.
Okay, you don't have brakes in the trolley.
No. So if I basically wedge the sandbag when I'm on a proper surface, I actually use that sandbag just to wedge the wheel, so the trolley's not going to go away. Yeah. So I know we've gone off topic there, but there is a difference between a sandbag and a shop bag.
Oh, that's good. That's why I asked. I didn't realise there was a difference.
The talent's turned up. I can't remember what we were talking about. But once again, the scenarios here, I'm on my own.
Yeah, we don't get assistance these days as much as we'd like to.
But it's important that when it does go live, that it just looks normal.
Yes.
And everyone just expects it to look normal, but you have to put a bit of effort in to make it look normal. And I was covered if the sun went. I can't remember what actually ended up happening, but I did light up both the light panel LEDs flat out.
Yeah.
And if the sun came out, then the bounce board, you're right, was going to fill. And if it was cloudy, those light panels have got enough.
So the bounce board was a fill, not so much a key.
So
you're filling in the dark shadow.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because if the sun came out, you'd have to iris down, and then the shadow side becomes too dark, so you need fill.
Yeah. So, and then if the sun goes in halfway through the live cross, then the LEDs will
be enough of a fill level.
Just something,
of course.
The reason they chose the beach for the location was I think he was going overseas to work somewhere, in a coastal area, so they wanted the beach Today's Show producers wanted generic water and sand in the background.
Oh, I see.
And so once again, cheating a little bit with the polarizer just makes it look a bit nicer. Yeah, and one thing I always say, about the look is, try and imagine how people are watching it, and you don't realise till you go to, a department store or in Australia here, JB Hi-Fi or whatever, and you see the TVs are getting bigger and bigger, so you think, well, if someone is watching breakfast TV and they're watching your work in a box next to the anchor, which is beautiful,
that's right.
so
squished like that.
Correct, so you want it to look as good as possible.
That's right.
We take it's never going to match.
In our images.
Correct. But like, if I had didn't have any of those clamps, no bounce, I would have said, if I didn't take shop bags out, I said, well, I wouldn't have put lights up. I wouldn't have, gone to that.
You wouldn't have gone to the trouble.
No.
And the trolley helps you put all that stuff.
Yes.
To go from the car to your location and do what you're able to do. That's very commendable. That's great.
Yeah. So I think we've probably done the live cross. And I mean, once again, we only do these case studies with the photos that I can actually back them up with. So we're not, the reason we're singling out that live cross, I just happened to take a couple of selfies that day for social media purposes and didn't
photo tells a thousand words.
It does. So ready for our next?
Actually, just go back to the previous slide. What have we got there? So if people are interested, if they already don't have these clamps, where can they get them? Who makes them?
Well, this is a Manfrotto product, and once again, I have to declare that with all the corporate takeovers and things, I don't know who owns who anymore, but I think this still is Manfrotto.
Yeah,
is that right?
It's a Manfrotto. They've been around. These super clamps. There's a universal super clamp with ratchet handle. It's got a model number 035C. So if you're looking to get one, that's where you can find it on the website, and you talk to your local dealer about them. Almost everybody sells these.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't sell them because they're just
everyone
uses them. So
let's go on to your second case study. What are you going to talk to us about here?
Okay, so this was a day down at Phillip Island here in Victoria, at the racetrack. If you're familiar with that. This was a story I was doing for a Channel 10 show, and racing driver Tony D'Alberto. So once again, the case study here is the car. We had a 2-hour window opportunity with this Ferrari. It was delivered on a flat tray truck, and once it was off, the clock was ticking. It was 2 hours.
Right, so you had limited time to get the in-car stuff.
Correct.
Shoot him driving around the track with the big camera. How many cameras did you have in the car?
I had a GoPro and a smaller camera, which I'll get onto in a minute, in the car. But just once again, the scenario here is it's commercial pressure, and even on the day it was terrible weather. The forecast was terrible. The job was almost cancelled.
Oh wow!
And then the sun came out, so we had a window of opportunity to sort of get the story done.
Hurry, rig the cameras.
Correct. So the Ferrari's off the flat tray truck into the shed. They start prepping it for the driving, and that's where we had to sort of work around the engineers as well. And it was a corporate day, so people have helicoptered in basically. A lot of people chop it in basically to have their lap.
Oh wow!
So once again, as we have to do with camera crews, we're half camera crew, we're half public relations. We have to make sure we don't get in the way. We have to get what we need. I just touched the mic there, sorry. And they have to get what they need.
That's right.
So once again, with us, we don't have production meetings. We don't have recce's. We don't have rehearsals.
That's true.
We just have to make it happen. So, the clamps are just always in the car. Didn't know what I was going to need.
Well, this is it. It's not like I'm going to need this and that. You rock up to the job, you don't know, is there going to be a roll cage? Isn't there going to be a roll cage?
Oh, no.
How thick are the roll cages going to be? Which clamps do I bring? You more or less have to have a kit of clamps.
And correct, and foresee, what could happen.
So
we're in the garage here. That's it's a left-hand drive car, obviously, and that's Tony's side there. And then it was a luxury of us. The door actually comes off the car. It's designed to come off like aviation. You just pull a pin out and the door comes off. Here I am rigging GoPros and the Handycam, which I'll get onto in a sec. Just because could be a few nerdy camera people watching this. I'll just
We're
let
all
you know.
nerdy.
I know.
If you're a camera
So
person, you have to be nerdy. Yeah.
Sony NX30P.
Yep. I was going to say, so why, I would have thought you would have used GoPros. A lot of people use GoPros. Why are you, and this is a recent photo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just last year.
Last year. Why are you using a Handycam?
Well, I had a GoPro. I had a GoPro as well, but we know GoPros do some things really well, and there's some things they don't do that well, and it's probably just the confidence factor that I know. When I flip the screen out, I can see how much battery life there is. I can see how much time's left on the card, etc. And also this particular model has, you can't really see it, but it basically has an optical image stabilizer.
I can see it.
It's actually moving.
Staying inside of the body. Yeah,
so, and I know we shouldn't be editorializing, but this is a great camera, and I'm not sure why Sony don't still make them, because it's actually pretty good. And I notice on social media some people actually put out messages, anyone selling one.
So if someone wanted to buy one, they couldn't find one?
They couldn't find one.
Is there a new model?
I think there is, but I think it's slightly different with its stabilization.
Yeah.
So anyhow, then this basically ticks all the boxes. So it's not, actually, we didn't get a GoPro to put side by side, but it's not that much bigger.
Yeah, that's right. And you've got the convenience of the monitor being built in. It's real-time monitoring.
Correct.
It's got the image stabilization, and the biggest thing compared to a GoPro, you can zoom.
I can zoom, and not that I was still wide, but it's just, I can do things like take it off the auto function, so I can do things on the touch screen, for exposure compensation and
use an iris.
All of those things
for exposure instead of the shutter.
So, but also what I did here, because once we got up and running, of course I have to go up onto the viewing platform, which is pretty much above the pit garages here, and do the B-roll on the
of the car
going around the thing. And so once again, the sun's out here, but it was a terrible day and it was really windy. But what happened was, I could just say to the producer, listen, when I flip the screen around to its side position, when the car comes back into the pits to change passengers, can you just look in when the person's changing over, and just make sure the record's on, and
in case something got bumped or the battery went flat.
And the story did have a happy ending. I mean, this is a great camera. Yeah,
saved the day.
It saved the day, and I wasn't sure, because I'd never used it in a racing car before, and you know the G's that it pulls, and it was actually the footage was pretty good.
Okay, that brings up another interesting point. A lot of people, aren't too happy about us rigging cameras in their vehicles unless it's done properly and safely. Can you tell us?
The engineers were there. Yeah, the engineers were there, and I'm mindful of that, because once again, I don't want to damage anything, and you can imagine how much this stuff costs. Spare parts. I asked the engineers. I said, "Can I clamp?" It was the super clamp.
Yep. What was the combination?
The combination was this, basically. So it was a super clamp.
Yep.
And I'll just hold that up.
Yep.
So that they said yes, I can. I had permission to clamp it to the roll bar.
So the super clamp was strong enough to do the job. What else have you got attached to the super?
What we'll do? Should we just? It'll be grainy, but I'll just give the idea.
Yep.
So the super clamp onto the roll bar, and they signed off that I could do it up tightly.
Yep.
It wasn't going to crush.
And there was no cables on the.
If I can't remember, if there was, obviously
you put it on the side.
On
there,
the
it wasn't
correct.
Crimping it. Yep.
Yeah. And then, sorry, Con, I've forgotten the name of this.
Oh, that's a double ball joint head, I think.
Yeah.
Double ball.
One of those.
Joint.
But basically, I'm covered for all the angles, basically, and then I put the handy cam. And these are quite common, and these often come when you buy kits of Magicams and things.
That's right.
So I have a lot of these lying around.
And if you want to Google them and find out what that one's called, that's a camera bracket. So we've got 3 items: super clamp, double ball joint head, and camera clamp.
Yeah.
So they're all available at most of the resellers, distributors here in Melbourne and around the world.
But importantly, sorry to cut you off, but importantly is, once again, check the load limits.
Yes, that's right.
Now, obviously, that's quite light, but once again, a car doing 250 k's an hour.
So the clamps have got to be fit for the purpose.
Over-engineered. In this case, this is over-engineered, but that's what I need, because you can imagine what potentially could happen. And so once again, another job that I couldn't have possibly done
without
these clamps. And the GoPro, if I just put a second GoPro in, because the lens is so wide, it was really, I think I may have tested it, but it was pretty much just going to be a lot of red seat.
Yes.
And a lot of dashboard.
Yep. And really, when you go into the medium or the close setting on the thing, you're just digitally zooming into the picture, aren't you?
And once again, with this, I can just do a slight zoom.
Yeah, quick reframe, done.
Correct.
Done.
Yeah, and then walk away, and then I have to get upstairs and start doing it's actually not B-roll, it's probably the A footage.
Yeah.
But once again, another interesting case study, and once again, we've just used this. It is a good case study, but because we had the photos to back it up, that's another reason we've used this.
That's right. And again, two scenarios where you're a one-man band and you need to keep the quality up. You need the help of these clams to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because really, a lot of times you might have a separate person doing the in-car stuff, another person's doing the stuff you were doing.
I did have a sound recordist that day, and a producer. But there's still a lot to do, and once again, we only had a 2-hour window. They had to do the corporate laps, and people had flown in helicopter. The stakes are high.
A lot of expense. Yeah.
And we had to make a story out of it, and we had to do promos with Tony as well. Yeah. So the less, once again, you put this little camera on, you turn it on. The display, it says I've got 2.5 hours of card time, record time, 3.5 hours of battery time, and it's like, if I don't just turn it on once, I don't have to touch it.
Exactly, and you can tell how long the card's going to run for, the battery, and
and on this rock solid setup, and I didn't have to worry about it.
That's it.
Coming off,
and that's very important, because if you put a lesser clamp and ball joint into place, and the thing either broke off because of the G's and hit the driver in the face, or
who's paying?
Exactly.
who gets sued?
So exactly. So the expense of good quality, reliable gear is worth every cent, in my opinion.
And also, some of the videos that we'll probably now do, because there is a bit of interest in them, is we'll just also point out, these are a good investment.
How long have you had your claims for? I've had mine 15, 20 years.
Some of these are over 20 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah. So everyone's, 4K this and log that and Alexa. Yeah. Look, clamps, you could do worse things than spend your money on clamps. Yeah. So,
and these are part of what I would call your basic kit. Your grip equipment, your lighting. Even the lights come and go in fashion. We went from tungsten to fluoros to now LEDs. I still got my tungsten lights. I love my tungsten. We're lighting some of the studio here with some ARRI 300s, and, as well as the new LED technology. But
we've just clicked back to the Manfrotto website here, so it has all the part numbers and model numbers.
So if you want to check them out on the website and then go to your distributor and say, have you got any of these parts, and these are the part numbers, if they don't have them, they can order them in for you.
But also, even we were just before, I have to admit, I couldn't remember what that was called.
We've had them so long in our bags.
Correct.
Just give me that spring clamp.
But if you just go into the search engine, in the images, Google Images, a lot of this stuff comes up, and that can be more specific. So I think we're sort of getting there, are we? Once again, still on the Manfrotto page here.
There's another name for this double joint head, tilt top head without bracket.
They're a good one. I've got a few of those.
They're very actually it doesn't have the weight capacity there, but anyway, it's available on the website.
It should be there, but they are good. So
one more thing before we go. Where do you keep your clamps? Now, I keep mine in a little Pelican case, but I notice you've got a...
Look, I have an old porta brace bag. I think this was a mixer bag, but once again, part of my thing of repurposing old equipment. I don't think this bag actually...
Bring it in closer to you.
That one? That one,
yeah.
This bag here, this is an old porta brace bag. I think it was a mixer bag or a monitor bag or something, but I keep... I've just got the nano clamps, all the go-to... what's that one? That's a scissor clamp. Once again, these ones don't come out very often, but when they do, they're worth their weight in gold. Ball heads, I just keep the tall spigots. That I don't leave home without that bag.
And it's also handy if you've got it in some sort of container like a bag or pelican, you can bring it with you to the car there and go, what do I need? Rummage through, yeah, that's what I need, and use that.
On my list of things to do, there's a long list, I actually want to get this into a like a porta brace hip bag, I think they call it, because the reality is when you're rigging cars, on your knees on the asphalt on the side of the road, I just find it's handy. That's probably where that stuff would end up eventually, my car in one of those.
Because it's there with you, you don't have time. I'll just go to the car and grab that clamp.
Yes.
Because he's gone.
Yes.
He's just pulled in to do a bit of a pit stop.
Yep.
And it's your turn to fine tune something or to quickly rig that camera.
But I mean, if you lose, I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, you don't want to lose these. No. You know, it eats into your profits. So containing them all, keeping a handle on them all is important.
And knowing where to find them, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
If you've got them in a dedicated case or bag, that's where they live. That's where you go to find them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, do you think we've covered?
I think we're pretty good. That's if people are still with us. But I'm sort of happy with that. But like I said, just to wrap it up, it's basically these are pretty important, and they get used on pretty much every job that I go on for something. Yeah.
So if you haven't already got your kit of clamps, we strongly suggest that you go out and build your kit of clamps, because inevitably it'll get you out of trouble, it'll help you do your job and do it well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and Dave, there's more to come, I believe.
There is indeed.
Stay well.